All right, welcome to Prop 5 on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. Got David Eversole. You can follow him at David W. Eversole. Make sure you use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down $5. You get 50 to play. You got to play 10, actually. It's a little bit of a tweak there. But put down your 5. You play 10. You get 50. That's how it works. And then there's no catch. So you can play this in the state of Florida or in many other states. It is legal again in Florida. You can play up to 6 players together across the sports spectrum. So again, today we're going to talk NFL. The NBA is playing today as well, so I might throw in a heat prop while we're at it. But let's get to the divisional round. And a surprise yesterday with the Lions losing at home. We'll see what happens today. The Eagles and the Rams is kind of the warm-up game today, and then we'll get to the one that everybody's interested in, which is Bills and Ravens. So let's start with the Eagles today. On the Eagles side, let's talk about Jalen Hurts for a second. So you talked about this before the show that the last time the Eagles and the Rams played and the last time the Bills and the Ravens played, there were a lot of rushing yards.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Jalen's rushing yards today, and his passing rushing yards are 241.5. The rushing yards are 38.5. He's been over 38 3 of the last 4. Do you think, what would you play with Hurts today?
I'd probably honestly play him under on the rush attempts at 9.5. I feel like both teams were kind of embarrassed, the Eagles were kind of, they really want to make a good impression in this game. When they met earlier, Saquon Barkley kind of, dominated the game, and I feel like Jalen Hurts is rounding back into form now in terms of throwing the ball. And as sharp as the Rams were last weekend, I feel like this might be a little bit more of a shootout than people think. So I think that, Barkley's going to be the focus, obviously, but the Rams are going to want to look to load the box and not let Barkley go for 255 again against them. So I think Hurts is going to be looking to throw first, and I like him under on the 9.5 rushing attempts. And I also like Saquon over on receptions. The straight play is 2. There's a goblin play at 1.5. I believe he had 4 in the earlier matchup with these two teams. If it's cold, the short intermediate passing game might be a little bit of a factor today. A.J. Brown has kind of been up and down. It seems like Devontae Smith has sort of been the go-to wide receiver for Philadelphia lately. So I'm going to take Barkley over 1.5 receptions, and I'm going to take Jalen Hurts under on the 9.5 rush attempts. You're muted.
I'm looking at Barkley's receptions, and that actually struck my eye too. It's interesting because they have him at 2. He's been at 2 in 3 of the last 4. Hasn't gone over though. He's been right there too.
Right there, yeah.
It is something that I want to look at. But I'm with you on Devontae Smith. It does seem like Hurts has been leaning on him more and more as opposed to Brown of late. And so there are a couple of plays here that I like. First thing, when you talk about the shootout, I would play Jake Elliott over the 2.5 point afters made. I think they do score 3 touchdowns today, so I would go with him over the 2.5 points after touchdown. And Devontae Smith, you could get the Goblin here at 49.5 on rushing and receiving yards. I don't mind that one. I kind of feel like that's a given. And then
you might just go over that with receiving itself.
Yeah, and 54.5 receiving yards for Devontae Smith. Again, I do think they're going to open it up a little bit more. I would play him over today on the 54.5. All right, let's look at the Rams side.
Target volume.
Would you play Stafford today?
So the way he came out last week, I mean, when Stafford's on, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, his arm talent is incredible. And when his accuracy and when he's locked in, I like Stafford in this game. I think Philadelphia is going to be ahead in the second half. I mean, he's only at 214 yards. No quarterback in NFL history has more passing yards in the playoffs per game than Matthew Stafford. So he's been, obviously he only had 209 against the Vikings, but they didn't really need it. So, yeah, I do like Stafford in this game. You can hedge that down to a Goblin play. I would drop it down to the first Goblin to 199.5. Mm-hmm. And in that game, Tyler Higbee, who was out for a good part of the season, they looked for him early and often. in that game. He's at 28.5 receiving yards. So I think that's a good pair with Matthew Stafford. I feel like the Philly cornerbacks are going to try to take Puka away a little bit. So you see a little bit more Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee in this game.
Well, Puka's at 84.5 receiving yards. It's been interesting this year where it's been like either Kupp or Puka. It hasn't been one or the other, and one has had a big game, then the other has had a big game. So I would stay away from both receivers. I don't feel comfortable with them because it seems like they rotate them week to week. Stafford, half an interception. I kind of like too if his volume is up a little bit. He hasn't thrown a lot of picks of late, but half an interception is the Goblin play today. I would play the 214.5. I think that's fairly safe, even though again he hasn't gone over it in the last 4. But you're right, in the playoffs tends to turn it up a little bit. He's also been under on pass completions. This number 20 for the last 4. But I think that he goes over it today. But I would play the passing yards today, and I'm going to play the Devontae Smith over 54.5 on this game. All right, let's get to the other one. David, what do you like on the Bills side?
Well, I mean, on the Bills side, you kind of have to take a look at James Cook, obviously, and the running game in this game. Baltimore, obviously, with Derrick Henry, they're going to want to try to keep Josh Allen off the field. And I think with Buffalo too, they're going to be pretty balanced. James Cook's at 56.5 on the straight play, 39.5 rush yards on the Goblin play. I really like that. I'm going to take James Cook over on the receiving yards at just 15.5. He's got the ability to just take one of those little dump passes and turn it up the field for 20, 30 yards. So I do like James Cook in the passing game. I think with the weather being like it is, there's going to be less opportunities down the field. And also Dawson Knox been really reliable. He had a couple receptions last week. His line's bumped up to 1.5 receptions, but I would take him over on the 14.5 receiving yards.
I looked at that one too. It's kind of similar to the Rams receiver situation that they involve both Kincaid and Knox, a little bit more Kincaid. The 14.5 receiving yards looks pretty good to me. I think also you mentioned Cook. I would play Cook over on just straight rush yards, honestly. I know that's one of the more popular ones today. 120 last week. He went under against New England, but they didn't really need him. He's been over this number pretty consistently of late. So
averaging 81 over his last 5 games.
Yeah. I think they're gonna need it. All right, let's go with the Ravens. I'll do the easy play today. I really don't see a way that they hold Henry under 100. So I just gonna make this real simple. I actually paired this with something I went on yesterday. Henry 98.5 rushing yards. I mean, last 4 games, 186, 138, 147, 162. He's getting stronger as the year goes on. Yeah. I don't think he's somebody that you game plan for and take away. I just don't think that's the way it works with him, because the first time he hits you in the cold, you don't want another part of it. So these cold weather games tend to favor him. I'm going to say again, 98.5 over. I also kind of like, we've seen Isaiah Likely play big in big games. 38.5, 37.5 is his receiving yard total. Had 53 last week. I would play that one over as well. What do you see on the Ravens side?
Well, here's the thing about the Ravens, though. They're banged up in the receiving core. And, I think Zay Flowers is out in this game. So, you're looking at basically like Rashad Bateman in terms of receivers for the Ravens. He's at 42.5 receiving yards. He's kind of up and down, hard to trust sort of guy. But Derrick Henry went for 199 when these two teams met earlier in the season. And I feel like Buffalo just has to sell out and stop him at least early downs and try to put them, Lamar Jackson behind the chains a little bit. So I'm going to go with Henry over on the half a reception, believe it or not. I feel like he doesn't get involved a lot in the passing game, and then all of a sudden you look down and he has a reception, 2 out of 3 games. He hit 66% on the year over that half a reception. So I feel like he gets one easy dump off in this game and goes over that half a reception. And you also have the Goblin play on the TD. If he's inside the 5, it's going to go to Derrick Henry 3 times in a row.
I can see that too. And again, I mentioned on Henry. Honestly, I'd play everything over. I just think unless you get an injury, knock on something early in the game, I think Flowers is out. So I mean, if you're looking at the receiving yards here, Justice Hill, 3.5 receiving targets for last week.
Good. Like he's good for 1 or 2 big plays every game.
Yep.
Justice Hill, it seems like.
23.5 receiving yards. Didn't do that the last 2 weeks, but did get 61.
I like him. I like his combo rushing receiving Justice Hill.
Okay.
At 34.5. I think, he's a good third down weapon. Buffalo's got to sell out on first downs and try to, keep Henry from running for 9-10 yards a carry like he did when these teams met earlier in the season. In week 4, he went 24 for 199. He actually caught 3 balls against Buffalo in that game as well.
Let me look at the Heat stuff here real quick before we go. I'll give you one. We might as well just talk about this one. Is Jimmy Butler on the board? Let's see. He is 17.5 points, 18 in the first game, went over the 14.5. So they've raised it. Going to be dealing with Wemby today. 5 rebounds, 4 assists. You know which play I like the best? I don't see him heavily involved in the offense as a distributor. I'm going to go under the 4 assists today. I just don't see it. He's not connected with his teammates right now. So I'm going to go under the 4 assists or the under 9.5 rebounds and assists. I think that he has not been going over those kind of numbers. I mean, he might get some secondary scoring like he did in the last game, but I think that's
take him over half a steal. He got the Goblin half a steal.
I know, but he's got to actually care to do that, and that's the thing. Like that's the scoring is one thing, but the other part of this again is he going to be engaged? And I just don't.
He's just a stay away for me right now. If you're not Tyler Hero on the Heat, I really don't love your numbers.
No,
and now that Jimmy's back, Haywood's numbers have been down. So without Jimmy, Haywood Highsmith was the go-to for me.
Yeah, no, he was. He was an easy game. Well, I'm gonna play Jimmy under the 9.5 rebounds and assists. I just bet on him being lazy again. All right, David, we appreciate it. I'm gonna go because my voice is shot here, as people can tell. But everybody have a good day. Use the code 5 FIVE. Put down the 5, play 10, get 50. That's a pretty good deal. So again, legal in the state of Florida. But again, use the code FIVE. Have a good day.